A very warm welcome to all. This is Ms. Ritu Sharma, an assistant professor from the Department of Zoology, Durham College, Tejpur, Assam. In this lecture video, I'll be discussing about one of the most important endocrine glands of our body, that is the thyroid gland. It is included under the syllabus of BSc 3rd semester, having paper JOHC 3026, that is the animal physiology paper. So let's start it. Firstly, we'll see where the thyroid gland is located and what is the anatomy of this gland. Thyroid gland is the largest endocrine gland of our body, which weighs about 15 to 25 gram, and it is derived from endoderm, which is one of the three germ layers of our body. As we can see in the figure, this thyroid gland is situated in the neck, just below the larynx and in front of the trachea. To be more specific, we can say this gland is situated at the level of C5, C6, C7, which are the cervical vertebrae, and T1, which is the thoracic vertebrae. So we can see in the figure, this thyroid gland is butterfly shaped and it consists of two lateral lobes which are cone shaped, and the two lobes are joined by a narrow isthmus. Now coming to the histology of thyroid gland, we have already seen that the thyroid gland, it consists of two lobes, and each lobe is composed of many hollow spherical structures called the thyroid follicles, and these are the functional unit of the thyroid gland. Now each follicle consists of layer of cuboidal epithelium enclosing a cavity called the follicular cavity, and this cavity is filled with a semifluid or gel-like substance called colloid. This colloid is nothing but the secretion of epithelial cells and composed of thyroglobulin and some proteolytic enzymes. Here we can see that in between these follicles there are some other cells termed the C cells or the parafollicular cells. So from this C cells we'll get the endocrine secretions, and we'll also get some endocrine secretion from the follicular cells. Now this slide shows the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland. Here we can see the thyroid gland, it secretes three hormones, T3, T4 and calcitonin. T3 and T4, they are together regarded as thyroid hormones, and they are secreted from the follicular epithelium, while this calcitonin, it is secreted from the C cells or the parafollicular cells. Here in this diagram we can see these are the chemical structures of T3 and T4. T4 is also known as thyroxine, and the full name is 3,5,3-5-tetraiodothyronine, and the full name of T3 is 3,5,3-triiodothyronine. Now we'll see how the secretion of this thyroid hormone is regulated. So whenever there is need of thyroid hormones in the body, it is sensed by the hypothalamus, and this hypothalamus, it releases one hormone, that is thyroid releasing hormone. This thyroid releasing hormone, that is TRH, it goes and stimulates the anterior pituitary gland to release another hormone, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. Now this thyroid stimulating hormone or TSH, it goes and binds with the receptor of thyroid follicles. Now this thyroid follicle, it will start synthesizing and secreting the thyroid hormones. Now once this thyroid hormones, that is T3 and T4, it has come inside the blood, they will go to their target tissues and they will perform their function. For example, they will increase the metabolism, they will get involved in the growth and development and all. And since their level is high in the blood, now there is no need of further secretion of T3 and T4. So their own concentration, they used to send some signals to the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland to stop secreting TRH, hence to stop secreting the TSH, as a result of which there will be less secretion of T3 and T4, or we can say there will be no secretion of T3 and T4. So this is a loop, it shows the feedback regulation. Now we'll discuss about how the thyroid hormones actually synthesized in our body. Okay, so the thyroid hormone, it is synthesized inside the follicles of thyroid gland, and it occurs in several steps. Mainly these 6 steps are involved, and I'll be explaining these steps in detail. So the first step in the synthesis of thyroid hormone is active uptake of iodide by the follicular cells. So whatever iodides we are ingesting through our diet, they get absorbed from the GI tract into the blood, and from the blood they used to get transported to the thyroid glandular cells, that is the follicle cells. Now what is the importance of this iodide ion? As we have already seen in the chemical structure of T3 and T4, that there are some iodine atoms are present in those molecules. So this iodide ion is one of the main component of thyroid hormone. So obviously this iodide ion, it needs to get transported into the thyroid follicle for the formation of the thyroid hormone. So there is a presence of one symporter, that is sodium iodide symporter, at the basal membrane. Now this basal membrane is the membrane which is near the blood capillary, and opposite to the basal membrane is the apical membrane which is near to the colloid. So in this basal membrane there is a sodium iodide symporter through which 2 sodium ions and 1 iodine ion, or the iodide ion, is transported into the thyroid follicular cell. The name symporter is there because both the sodium ion and the iodide ion, they are transported in the same direction, and this uptake is stimulated by the thyroid stimulating hormone. The second step is the formation and secretion of thyroglobulin. Now inside this thyroid follicular cell, there is a simultaneous secretion, synthesis and secretion of thyroglobulin molecule. Now thyroglobulin molecule is a large glycoprotein molecule, and once it is synthesized, it gets packaged into inside a vesicle, and this vesicle, it fuses with the apical membrane, and through exocytosis this thyroglobulin molecule, it comes inside the colloid. Now since it is a glycoprotein, it will be made up of lots of amino acid, and this thyroglobulin molecule, it contains approximately 140 tyrosine residues. Now these tyrosine residues are very much important since they serve as a major substrate to which the iodine will bind to form the thyroid hormone. So now the third step is the oxidation of iodide ion. See, this iodide ion, it cannot get directly bound with the tyrosine residue. First, it has to get oxidized to iodine. So the iodide ion, once they have entered the thyroid follicular cell, they will be transported into the colloid through another protein called the pendrin. Now once inside the colloid, this iodide ion is oxidized by hydrogen peroxide into the iodine. Means iodide will be oxidized to iodine by the hydrogen peroxide, and this reaction will be catalyzed by thyroid peroxidase. So this figure is showing the synthesis and secretion of thyroid hormone. Okay. So now next, the fourth step is organification of thyroglobulin. Now once this iodide ion is oxidized to iodine atom, there will be binding of this iodine atom with the tyrosine residue of thyroglobulin molecule. And this binding of iodine to thyroglobulin molecule is called the organification of thyroglobulin molecule. And this reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme iodinase. So first this tyrosine residue, it is iodized to monoiodotyrosine, that is MIT, having single or one iodine atom, and then to diiodotyrosine, that is DIT, having this tyrosine residue will have 2 iodine atoms. Now there will be coupling of MIT and DIT. So if there's a coupling of 2 DIT, it produces T4, that is tetraiodothyronine, and if there is a coupling of 1 DIT with 1 MIT, it produces triiodothyronine, that is T3. Next, the fifth step is the storage of thyroglobulin. So once this thyroglobulin molecule having T4 and T3 molecules, it is formed, it gets stored in the follicles inside the conoid. Now this last step is the release of T3 and T4 from the thyroid gland. So the thyroid hormones that are now attached to the thyroglobulin molecule, they can be released into the blood once this thyroglobulin molecule having this T3 and T4, it gets inside the thyroid follicle. So this droplet having this thyroglobulin molecule with T3 and T4, it will get pinocytosed, or the pinocytosis of this droplet will bring the vesicle inside the thyroid follicle cell, and this vesicle will bind with the lysosome, and we know that lysosome, it contains some proteolytic enzymes. So those proteolytic enzymes will degrade, or they will break down this thyroglobulin molecule, releasing T3, T4, MIT and DIT. So this T3 and T4, they will diffuse through the basal membrane of the thyroid follicular cell into the surrounding capillary through another transporter, that is MCT8. And whatever MIT and DIT it has been released after the digestion of this thyroglobulin molecule, they will undergo a cleavage of iodine, means the iodine atom will be cleaved from MIT and DIT by another enzyme called deiodinase. So now we'll get the free iodine atoms, and those free iodine atoms will be recycled within the gland for the further synthesis of thyroid hormone. And now this T3 and T4, which has entered the blood capillary through MCT8 transporter, it will go and it will reach the target tissues and they will perform their function. Now we'll see what are the functions performed by the thyroid hormone. Once this thyroid hormone, that is T3 and T4, they get released from the, or they get secreted from the thyroid follicular cell into the blood, they will reach their target tissue. Here we have to note one point, that T3 is more potent, is more powerful. It is the active form. T4 is less powerful, like it is not the active form. So once it reaches the target tissue, that T4 is converted to T3, and T3, it performs the further functions. So the first is effect on transcription of genes. This thyroid hormone, it increases the overall functional activity throughout the body. And it does so by increasing the number of proteins, that is the enzymes, structural proteins, transport proteins. So if we have to increase the number of proteins, we have to increase the rate of transcription of genes. So this thyroid hormone, it increases the transcription of genes. Second is increased cellular metabolic activity. This thyroid hormone, it increases the basal metabolic rate by increasing the rate of anabolism and the catabolism of molecules like proteins and carbohydrates. So for increasing the basal metabolic rate, we'll need more amount of energy. And we all know that mitochondria is the powerhouse of cell. There the ATP is synthesized. So if we need more ATP, we'll need more number of mitochondria and the increased activity of mitochondria. So this thyroid hormone, what it actually does, it used to increase the number and the activity of mitochondria, which in turn increases the ATP synthesis to energize the cellular function. Now the third one is effect on growth. So during the fetal life also, this thyroid hormone, it plays a great role. It promotes the growth and development of the brain. So in case of hypothyroid children, like in children where the secretion of this thyroid hormone is less, the rate of growth is retarded. But in case of hyperthyroid children where the secretion of thyroid hormone is more, there the rate of growth is accelerated. Next, effects on specific body mechanism. This thyroid hormone, it stimulates all the aspects of carbohydrate metabolism like glycolysis, gluconeogenesis and all. Next, It also elevates the level of cholesterol, phospholipids, triglycerides in the plasma, but it actually lowers the level of free fatty acids. Again, with respect to respiration, it increases the rate and depth of respiration because for performing the cellular functions means to increase the basal metabolic rate will need more ATP. So will need more oxygen. Means once this basal metabolic rate is increased, there will be more utilization of oxygen and there will be more formation of carbon dioxide. So for that purpose we'll need more oxygen and we have to get rid or we have to expel out more carbon dioxide. That's why the rate and the depth of respiration is increased, and this is done by thyroid hormone. Again, the nutrients and oxygen they should get supplied to the tissues faster. So the blood flow is also increased, cardiac output is increased, heart rate is also increased. Again, this thyroid hormone, what it does, it used to increase the rate of secretion of other hormones like other endocrine glands also. And it actually increases the need of the tissues for the hormones. And the fifth one is effect on sexual function. So in case of males who lacks this thyroid hormone, there is a complete loss of libido. Again, if the thyroid hormone is in excess, it causes impotence. In case of females, if the female is suffering from hypothyroidism, that is, if there is a less secretion of thyroid hormone, it causes menorrhagia. That means heavy and prolonged menstrual bleeding. And again, it also causes polymenorrhea. That means frequent menstruation. That means that cycle is less than 21 days. And in some extreme cases, it may also lead to amenorrhea, that is complete absence of menstruation. While in hyperthyroidism, in females, if they are having the increased secretion of thyroid hormone, means that there is no normal secretion. If the level of thyroid hormone is more than the normal level, it also causes oligomenorrhea. That means delayed menstruation cycle, delayed menstruation. The third hormone secreted by the thyroid gland is calcitonin. We have already seen that the C cells or the perifollicular cells which were present in between the follicles, they used to synthesize and secrete this calcitonin. This calcitonin hormone, it plays a great role in calcium homeostasis, and the main function of calcitonin is to reduce the blood calcium level. So if there is an increase in blood calcium level, this calcitonin will be secreted from the thyroid gland and it will act on three targets, that is kidney, bone and intestine. In the kidney, this calcitonin it will inhibit the calcium ion reabsorption. That means it will increase the excretion of calcium ion through the urine. Again in bone, it promotes the deposition of calcium ion into the bones, hence lowering the blood calcium level. Again in the intestine, this calcitonin will inhibit the absorption of calcium ion into the blood. So overall this calcitonin, it acts to reduce the blood calcium level. Since it has a role in this calcium ion homeostasis, I am not going to discuss it here. It's a different chapter. Now next we'll move to disease or the disorders caused by the thyroid gland. So if there is more secretion of this thyroid hormone compared to the normal level, it leads to hyperthyroidism. And if there is less secretion of thyroid hormone, it leads to hypothyroidism. Now, there's a disease called Graves' disease. It's an autoimmune disease. In this autoimmune disease, what happens? Some antibodies are synthesized, and those antibodies they used to mimic the thyroid stimulating hormone. They act as thyroid stimulating hormone. So these antibodies they used to bind with the receptors of the thyroid follicular cells, and they will stimulate these thyroid follicular cells to secrete the thyroid hormones, and hence there will be unnecessary production of this thyroid hormone. So as a result, this thyroid gland, it also enlarges in size and it leads to hyperthyroidism. Again, this hyperthyroidism, it also causes this goiter, where we can see there is a enlargement of thyroid gland. Now in case of hypothyroidism, that is this less secretion of thyroid hormones, we have seen that in case of children it causes cretinism. Means maybe these children, they lack the thyroid gland, totally they lack the thyroid gland, or they can be a lack of thyroxine from the birth, or they can there can be a lack of iodine also. So the main symptoms is that these children, they used to have mental retardation, their growth is stunted, and overall the growth and functions of most of the organs is reduced. And in case of adults, it causes myxedema. So this is all about the thyroid gland. I hope this video will be helpful for you all. Thank you.